All right, live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're hailing from. Welcome to another edition of the Level Up Hour, episode of the Level Up Hour, I should say. I am Chris Short, executive producer of OpenShift TV. I'm joined by the illustrious Langdon White. Langdon, how you doing today?
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. We have an interesting and packed show today. We do have. There were some announcements I wanted to get out of the way too at the beginning of the show today.
Okay, cool.
So
Do we need
first up,
other slides for the announcements? I always have to.
I probably should do more slides for those kinds of things, but whatever.
Mhm.
But the big thing I wanted to, or I could share. That would be. But what I wanted to mention was we are coming up on, let's see, DevConf CZ.
Oh yeah, virtual this
Which,
year.
yes, is virtual. And let's see, where did my stupid window go? Here it is. So it is virtual this year. It is the 18th through 20th, which is the end of next week. I am actually going to be giving a talk about service mesh and event-driven architectures and stuff, as well as giving or kind of highlighting some research in a keynote about application architectures. Those might be fun. It is free as always, and because it's virtual, you can go. It is the time is kind of set up so that at least kind of the Americas, north south, and Europe kind of north south, should have the timing work pretty well. So APAC is always tough to also include, but there should be some overlap. So there should be stuff that is semi-worldwide, and other stuff that is going to be harder to get to depending on the time zone you're in.
Right.
The other thing I kind of wanted to mention too was, so definitely check that out. Go register. It's a really good conference. It's all open
subscribe
source
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all open source software. It's all and I'll accept the cookies. And not product, right? So it's all the actual upstream projects. So it can be very illuminating, and I don't know anybody who doesn't enjoy it. So I highly recommend it. So that was the first thing. The other thing is we've been lining up some cool guests coming up. It sounds like we're going to have Dan Walsh and Chris Wright and Brent Bowdy all talking about various topics in the near future. So keep an eye on the streaming calendar if you would like to see them. We are slowly updating the kind of the abstracts and the events and that kind of stuff, but we have them confirmed as speakers, and we have a few others in the offing as well that we're hoping to get on the show.
I really have to commend you on that one, Langdon. Like, this was not me show running, doing my normal thing. This was like, Langdon wants, Langdon go get. And it was very awesome to see it happen. Like, just kind of sit back and watch kind of deal for once. It was like, whoa, Langdon knows how to do this.
I was pretty excited because you're always nervous when you're talking to cool people. Like, if will they have time for me? So I'm pretty stoked. I'm really looking forward to the Podman V3.
That's going to be dope.
Discussion with Brent Bowdy, who's one of the lead architects on the project. So that should be a lot of fun. That might have been it. We could hit the slides, and let's see. So we can make sure people are in the right place. I feel like there's something else I was supposed to mention, but I'll probably remember it later. Like in the middle of the night while I'm sleeping.
Where you're trying to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the Level Up Hour, where we talk about containers and why they're useful in your kind of everyday life, and random, to some extent, other topics that are either suggested by audience members, or kind of things I overhear in other shows or things like that. And actually, so somebody commented in the chat, Mr. Container Dan. Actually, we're going to specifically, what I asked him to come and talk about is the relationship between SE Linux and containers.
Yes.
So even though he's really the container guy now, he used to be the SE Linux guy. and I just think the way he explains stuff is very clear. At least, I find him very very understandable on hard topics. So I'm really hoping he can come and talk to us about kind of how security and SE Linux, which is kind of like a subset of security and containers work, and hopefully explain some of that in ways that people can get a better understanding of how all that stuff goes.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited.
As you should be.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
Oh, and JP Dade mentions that KubeCon EU registration is open.
Just opened. Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Early bird special at $10. Oops.
I'm sorry, what?
Well,
What'd you say? Special at $10.
Well, no, JP Dade said it was $10 for a couple of weeks.
Super early. Yeah. This is like a super early bird special or whatever you want to call it that's going on right now. So get in while the getting's good, folks. KubeCon EU, we're not using, this is what I've been told, we're not using the monstrosity that is Intrado. So this is a new way of doing KubeCon for them. And as JP Dade says, he sent me a picture of his new Herman Miller office chair that he won at KubeCon NA last year.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
Yeah, he got the one with like the meshy, like super like spidery back kind of deal. Yeah. So super.
Yeah, I bought
awesome.
one. I think mine's actually a human scale. But because I'm too old to perch on a crappy chair.
Same.
Yeah. The other challenge I have is my desk is actually quite high up. It's not like quite high enough to be like a standing desk, but it's higher than standard. So I also couldn't use like a regular chair. It's actually worked out pretty well.
Cool.
I have enjoyed it. Yes, and to Detective Conan Kudo, yes, not Intrado. I am
not Intrado.
I'm curious to know what software they're using though.
I haven't heard, to be honest with you, and that's kind of off-putting.
This is all the rage now for us, like conference, people who
I know, right?
Like a lot of conferences and stuff. We always are curious how they're going to run the venue and how are they going to run the booths and all the other stuff, because like you see different ones, like what kind of swag are they doing, and you kind of want to steal the best ideas you can get, right?
Exactly.
And now we're all like hyper focused on the virtual conference platforms. Like, are they running it with a separate chat? Are they running it in the same one?
Right.
All this stuff, because it all makes a difference, but we're not doing the we're not doing the in-person thing lately, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, so, and to the comment, maybe it's Hopin. Hopin is the one that Red Hat's been using a lot lately. I'm kind of a fan. It's hopin.to. If anybody wants to check it out. It's been pretty good for us. Still has a lot of those same failings though, of the NIH thing of they wrote their own chat, they wrote their own schedule engine, and it's like, we have like 70,000 different chat applications that are all pretty good.
All right.
And we have, and then like I really enjoy sked.com, for the schedules. It has a mobile app, all this other stuff. Excuse me. So
deep linking, which was a hard thing in the beginning for Intrado. Right. So here. Let's get on with the show. How about
that? Sorry. We get a little distracted occasionally. So the level up hour, here we are. I'm Langdon with a 1 on Twitter, and Chris is Chris Short on Twitter as well.
Yes.
And we are always on not always, but mostly on the Discord.
No, I'm always on the Discord, by the way.
Well, I'm always logged into the Discord. Sometimes I sleep, as we discussed, I think last time or 2 times ago. We've actually been getting some good knowledge sharing there the past like week or 2 in particular. Some questions. Specifically, we had some questions about, why am I completely blanking? Oh, about licensing or subscriptions for OpenShift. And I'm trying to put either this show, like the next episode or the episode after that of this show, together about it, or we're going to do a special edition show so that we can actually address those on the show itself, because they're like the answers aren't something I really like. I could have written like walls of text to try to get,
Nice.
to try to answer. But I thought it would be better if we actually get some of the experts on how the subscriptions work. One of them was actually about the Level Up program itself,
Right.
which this is a kind of piece of this show.
Hmm.
And so get some of the experts who are involved in those programs to come and talk about them so that they could answer the questions directly. So I thought that would be fun. So yeah, but there were some questions about ACM, and then there was something else lately too, but now I can't.
Oh, did we answer that question? ACM? Crap, I
I
forget.
think so. I thought Christian
Okay.
jumped in at some point.
Yeah, I know we talked about it in internal
Right.
channels, but I don't remember if we like
I
actually
think
jumped on the
Christian went
answer.
back and answered.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
So yes, the new 16 RHEL free licenses. I don't know. We may not have a RHEL sub expert, but
Well,
suffice
no,
to say,
we did a show
oh,
on last
right,
week
last week, right?
on Red Hat Enterprise Linux Presents. We talked about the 16 licenses. And then ACM, we had a great show yesterday on ACM. And
Oh, that's where you answered the question.
Yeah.
That
And
came up in Discord.
right, like I brought it, like you mentioned it in our Slack, and I was like, oh, he's actually on right now, and we can answer it. Yeah.
Right. So go check out the episode from yesterday of what was that one called, or which show was that?
For
The ACM thing.
Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management presents.
Oh, it was the direct ACM show. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
They have their own
Okay.
show.
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't know it was yesterday.
Yeah. No, it's every third or every first Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So generally,
Yeah, there were
speaking,
fire alarms during that show. That's right, Carlos. There was. Mike Elder's fire alarms were going off for some reason, and it literally, like, once we hit deploy on something, they started going off, and it was hilarious. It was quite funny show yesterday, and very lively.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I have a machine that I do certain kinds of builds on, and when I do those certain kinds of builds, it screams at me because it's not being able to draw enough power,
Right.
which I find not very reassuring.
No.
But whatever. Yeah. So okay. So that is a bunch of stuff about Discord. As usual, we, I did the show notes from last time, which was episode 22, and I forgot to update the title of this episode, which was brilliant of me. I should really have somebody cross-check these, maybe.
And you know what? I noticed that this morning, and I probably could have fixed it then. I was just too worried about shipping out my email. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, right. So today's show is actually about API gateways, sort of. I think we called it, APIs and their gateways. I will tell you, so I struggled a little bit on how to kind of model this show so that it wouldn't just be like a straight up lecture, because
you are illustrious.
Well, right, exactly. Well, because the topic, I was trying to figure out what I really wanted to do was like demos or something.
Right.
But the problem is that you don't cross into needing things like API gateways until you got a whole mess of stuff. And so doing things at a smaller scale. So if I had gotten a little further along on the Cool Store work, I think that actually might be a good model for it.
Right.
But I thought we'd kind of talk about it a little bit in the abstract, and I could show some examples rather than demos per se.
Cool.
And then we could, then maybe we'll revisit it when we can bring in the Cool Store and kind of demonstrate their API gateway as part of the show directly. All right, now I have to rearrange my windows because they're all lost.
Sweet.
Yes, exactly. So the first thing I wanted to mention, and I will throw them in the chat, is we have actually done 2 different API gateway product episodes of OpenShift Commons briefings.
Yes.
And so one of them is based on, so there was an independent company called 3Scale that we acquired some day before today.
A while ago.
I don't know how long ago. And so they did a show not too long ago, and sorry, my notes are all in Markdown, so they will, generally speaking, land in Markdown in the Twitch unless I do something different.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, and then the other one, which was one from just like a week or two ago, was with a company called Kong,
Yeah,
which
that was a good episode. Yeah.
I went back and watched it because they specifically say API management is dead as the
Right.
title of the show.
It
And
was
I was like,
very, very intriguing. Yeah.
yeah. So I was kind of like, maybe I should know what they have to say before I go and say API gateways are the bomb.
Yeah.
So, long story short, it was kind of funny, as is often the case when I am trying to explain stuff in technology. Weirdly enough, I find the Wikipedia definitions of them shockingly good and shockingly easy to understand. Um, so I am going to talk about it a little bit from that perspective. Um, and straight up share that definition.
Yeah.
So hopefully y'all can read that. But you can go back and look at it later. I will throw the actual link in the chat as well. This one not in Markdown.
Oh, how nice.
So and as somebody mentioned, the editors, yeah. So I am a big fan of Joplin note taking editor, which is an
Oh,
open
cool.
source
Yeah, that's
editor.
very much Markdown based.
Yeah, and I really like it. So I think I've pitched it on the show before. I will pitch it again because I think it's great. But what I kind of want to point out here is the whole I don't know when it happened, right? But so if you go back 15 years ago or something, maybe 20, and I went and did some research on this to try to find some examples. But basically, IBM has, and I think they acquired it, but there's a product called Tivoli, which has been around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
HP has the brilliantly named SOA Manager. Mindreef, which was one that I remember from back in the day, called they call it the Soap Scope Server. And then the other one I wanted to share too was, well, let me get to that in a second. But MuleSoft also has some products in this space. But so we had these things that, as I remember them being called, were called SOA service meshes or meshes, which is kind of funny because we now have a thing that we call service meshes, which are not the same thing, because it's technology, so we don't want to make things too easy to understand. So in those days, when we were doing the SOA idea, so the SOA service-oriented architectures were basically a top-down approach to integrate all the services together of your environment so that you could deliver on applications. And first up, the top-down approach was problematic, as in when you tried to do a directive from like this CTO's office, it didn't take with your developer on the ground, 30 layers deep, right? The other problem was the standards bodies. The standards bodies were just ridiculously huge and time consuming to get to
Yeah.
things like SOAP was
Mhm.
a big standard, and they were good. Don't get me wrong, like the quality of the result was good. The problem is getting a revision to one was like a matter of years. And during that same time frame is when we saw the same thing that the guy from Red Monk, who I just blanked on his name,
Oh,
but
shoot.
who wrote the Developer's King, whatever that book is called.
Yeah.
Now I'm all totally blanking. Of course, I don't have a note for that. But there's a book that basically talks about the swing of the pendulum of kind of the power dynamic in software from system administrators, which actually is what led largely to like package managers and kind of the uniformity of Linux, which has been great. But it swung over to developers and then was kind of reinforced by things like containers and that kind of stuff. So, but during that period, right? So when that swing was happening in the monolithic power structure that was like SOA and that kind of stuff, you had these service meshes. They were all very complex. You had things like kind of ESBs, which was the enterprise service bus. You had, largely this is also where like Java application servers really got out of hand, and you had Java Beans and all that stuff. There you go, Stephen O'Grady. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, if you can remember his book
JP.
title, that would be perfect.
That's my job to do, the linking and stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So he's definitely, if I highly recommend like following his Twitter and going and reading his blog posts. He's an interesting guy. So all that said, right, so you had all this concept of this highly tuned like world, etc.
The new kingmakers.
Yes,
how developers conquered the world.
Right. Yeah. So you have all of these kind of like overarching review and all this other stuff. Okay, then flash forward to kind of more present day, and you started having grassroots service creation, which we now call kind of microservices, but was this idea of all these different services kind of becoming available and being able to be used, largely led by or kind of, I don't want to say inspired, it was happening all over the place, but starting to be realized by a famous memo that Bezos wrote at Amazon about what they call the two pizza team, which is that you can't have a team that's bigger than you can feed with two pizzas. And the and the kind of the other half of it, which was that they were not allowed to write functionality that could not be called by other parts of the organization, but also by the outside. So every single service that was offered within Amazon had to also have authentication so that it could be called from somebody outside.
Right.
And largely this helped to lead to the kind of the massive number of services on AWS, right?
I forgot what the count is. I think it's like 200 now, but yeah.
Oh, at least. I mean, like, the next big service they need to do is figuring out how to make their management page easier to understand.
A service gateway.
Right. So what happened, though, was exactly that, is that, okay, now we've got this whole mess of services. How do we manage them, right? Because, excuse me, so how do we manage them as both kind of internally, but then also externally, right? Because we might want to have external people be able to call them. And this is where the concept of API management or API gateways started to land. So at its simplest point, right, as in the Wikipedia page says here, is like the gateway is the part so that we were talking about authentication before. You don't want to have every single service write their own authentication. That's just
like
asking for
recipe for disaster.
Right,
yeah,
exactly. That's not going to go well. So instead, you do things like a gateway, platform of some kind. And so companies started to make a product or products, right, that just delivered that gateway aspect. Another one that started to show up was the publishing problem. Okay, so how do you do the simple publishing problem, which is like make other parts of your organization or other organizations aware of the fact that you have this API?
Right.
But then, almost more importantly, is how do you make them aware of revisions to the API? And so, new version has come out. How do you share that information at a technical level? And then kind of the next level down, or the next thing down on this list, right, is kind of developer portal, which is like, okay, so the publishing tools are about how do you make the like software aware of API change, but then how do you make the humans who are going to write the software that consumes that software aware of API change? And that's where developer portals start to come in handy. I really like that it started to standardize that you can start to say developers.companyname.com, and you will often get a solid lead on. Sorry, I was just looking at a message.
Yes, it's.
Yeah. So when so you can get a solid lead on what's going on in those, in that particular environment. And so we have. Then you kind of get further on, right? So now you want to know about what's actually going on in the environment. So you get reporting and analytics. Oh, and then finally you want to make money on it. Okay, now making money on it could be there's this old thing. I don't even know if they still do it, even though we're part of IBM. But there used to be this thing called IBM Blue Dollars, which is dollars that IBM would spend amongst itself, so that you could track that this part of the organization was buying from that part of the organization without spending real money, right? But as the organization that's running the WebLogic team, or sorry, that's not IBM, or let's say WebSphere, you want to say, okay, I want to go as, let's say Red Hat is buying a bunch of WebSphere, even though we have JBoss, right? But let's just say we're buying a bunch of WebSphere. The WebSphere team wants to be able to take credit for the sale, right? So you have these blue dollars, they used to call them. So that's where you want the monetization, is to kind of track what's happening, within the organization. But it could be external monetization as well, right? So you want to, buy whatever from whoever. And so one of the kind of weird little things I wanted to kind of show you is that, and I was kind of getting at this a little bit, is this concept is not like all that different than the service management concept, right? So again, hopefully you can see that. And I made my picture big enough.
Yeah.
But if you notice here, we have API management in the same bucket, right, as like SOA management produced by the same company. That's weird. What if, like, are they different? Like, are they the same? And I would argue that largely it's the same concept. It's this problem of, as soon as you have a set of services, doesn't really matter, like, once they're kind of over a certain size, they can be micro, they can be macro, they can be coming from third parties, they can be coming from wherever. You need to start to understand what's going on. So yeah, that's kind of largely the point of the API management, API gateways. And then we start to get into, sorry, technology defeating me. I'm going to share again and share.
Trying to grab a playlist for you, AC, where you can go watch all of our previous episodes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, sorry, I'm not watching the chat as much.
It's fine. I got it.
Cool. But so if you look at, what was I going to get to? Oh, so what I kind of wanted to show was like, and what's funny is, and why I thought this was like a good slot to put this show in, is because we talked about like Apache Camel. Oh, I don't know. Oops.
What did you share?
Good gracious. There we go.
Do you know what you shared?
I'm trying. Okay. You should see Apache Camel now. Yes. Okay. So if you kind of look here, right? So we see there's all these APIs in Camel, right? And we were talking about Camel and Camel K. Camel K is in a lot of ways just the Kubernetes version of Camel. But this is a API tool chain that came up in the show last time, because we were talking about the cool store. But it gets both cooler and more boring than that, because we can talk about things like, as I'm sure, oops, wrong button. Most people are familiar with, although I think I forgot to log in. Rank.
That's like the first setting I turn off in Firefox.
I know.
It's
passwords. Because this.
No, I have something else for that.
Right, exactly. But so, what do we see here? Look at this. So this is a ton of APIs, right? And I have no idea how this works underneath, obviously.
Right.
But this is exactly the kind of problem we're talking about. So here's the San Francisco transit system. And so you can operate on the API that, a BART station is delayed.
Yeah.
Or a BART, something happens that delays, I assume, a train, right? I mean, I don't really care if the station is slow, and then cause something to happen, right? Or I can.
So like, there's the delay. I can say, okay, send me a text message or some kind of, there's all these alert apps out there. You could use Slack, whatever you want, right? Like just fire it on this API happening or this API exposing something.
Right.
Do this other thing. I used to use if then
This, then that. Yeah.
IFTTT.
Yeah.
I used to use it like a lot to share out like my recommended read tweets, but I've like surpassed like their capacity, I guess.
Well,
And
there's a bunch of competitors to it now.
right.
And one of them I was trying to remember. The one you use is pretty
Zapier.
common.
Yeah.
Oh, Zapier, that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't do anywhere near enough of these kinds of automations. But if you also think about, you start to see, you see this all over the place. So Tasker is
Right.
this API manager caller kind of thing for Android. I kind of thought we would get to their like website, but I guess I don't even know if they have one. But they kind of do the same thing, right? As like, on this, that's not a great example, but kind of, yeah, here we go. So on this kind of event, do this other thing over here.
Yeah.
So they are all over the place. These APIs are all over the place. And even though it's going to give away something later, we have actually search engines for this.
We have really?
Yeah. So there's this site called Programmable Web, which has actually been around for a dang long time.
Okay, I didn't even know this existed.
And they have, I don't know
Today
if you can see in here,
I learned something new.
24,000 APIs that they know about. And I will say your mileage will vary a little bit here, like, because obviously the curation can be a little tough. So, sometimes they're out of whack and, whatever. And we have
their RSS feed is like. That could be interesting.
Right. So there's a ton of good stuff here. And then we also even have, conferences dedicated to this concept. And this one I particularly like because I think the name is hilarious. But I'm not sure what they're doing for 21. They seem to be doing something in person in May, which I'm like,
Broomfield, Colorado. I've been there.
Yes. So it's in this big, huge conference building. But I went once, maybe twice. And it was a great little conference. You and like 3,000 or 4,000 of your closest friends. But the point being is just that this is all like the entire conference is about like, how do I work with the APIs I need to manage or the APIs that I want to consume so that I can turn them into something else, et cetera, et cetera. So API management, it's like this buzzword, but at the same time, hugely interesting and potentially important component of any real application.
Or organization for that matter.
Or
right?
organization, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what I wanted to get to. And like I said, we do, and actually I really like 3Scale's kind of what is an API gateway thing here too.
Okay.
And so like I just thought these blurbs were well written, and kind of made sense to me. But really what I'm getting at here is that the term API here is just too limiting. We can, and this is the point of that Kong show where they're like API management is dead. It's that the term is stupid. What we have is service management, right? What we, whether it's a application programming interface or there's a pigeon involved or it's Mechanical Turk on Amazon,
right?
What you're doing is you're taking services, connecting them together and creating new things out of them, or you're offering them to be created new things out of them. And so what I think you're really starting to see is that there's kind of open source versions, kind of like the 3Scale is the management side, whereas like Camel is the like kind of backbone side. You have service buses, which kind of deliver messages between those various services. You have, and you can have different kinds of service buses. We talked about Kafka versus like a true ESB last time. So Kafka is throughput, whereas an ESB is perfection. So and sometimes you need different ones, right? So long story short is you need different ways to you need all these different services to be able to communicate with each other, and you need a way to manage them. And this is one thing that really like SOA recognized, right, with all their kind of high level kind of protocols and interfaces and specs and all that stuff, is it was really, really focused on the management of them, which typical in the software world, right? It was kind of ahead of its time, because people just wanted to build some services and make them talk to each other.
Right.
They didn't really want to worry about, whether or not that service was going to have to be revised, right?
Yeah.
And then
rewritten, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you burn the crap out of yourself later by not having introduced any versioning at the get-go. Now you have to break all your clients or rename your service or whatever.
Yeah,
and
which could be incredibly detrimental to anybody using that.
Yeah, it makes you for having not a good day.
Yeah.
The original version of PaaS was Pigeon as a service, Joe Fuzz. That was documented and true everywhere. So
we found it in some caves somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly. So the reason, so we've shifted from a terminology perspective. We've shifted over to service, microservice, blah blah blah. But one thing I like about the term API, and I cannot think of this word. Actually, if Detective Conan is still there, he'll know this answer, which I just cannot think of what it is. But we have a different term for the kernel interface that I'm completely blanking on.
ABI?
An ABI, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I could not think of this last night when I was putting the notes together. But the point is that you have, so that's an application binary interface, and the reason I almost like that term better than service is because we have a long history with those concepts. And so, for example, with RHEL has been around for a while.
Yeah.
And one of the promises we make with RHEL between minor versions and then actually with some major versions, is that the ABI and some APIs as well will remain the same or will remain backwards compatible, right?
Right. Yeah. We don't break the ABI on purpose.
Exactly. And if you think of your services in the same way,
right,
that you're going to have to revise them, that they are locked up, and that you need to have a mechanism to expand them, grow them, change them, whatever, without breaking all your clients, you will have a much better day. And so that's why I don't dislike the term, kind of API, ABI when referencing these services entirely, even though I think most people think of it as limiting, because, there is nothing about a service that requires it to be interacted with by a computer per se, Mechanical Turk, for example.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, you still have to operate with them as if they're a computer. Like you have to give versions, you have to publish how things change, all those things, because otherwise your life will be difficult. So, like I said, I was struggling with it kind of ended up a little lecture-y, but I kind of wanted to. It's hard to talk about without a whole lot of context, and then maybe what we'll start to see is how do we integrate cool services, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a minute, later, in a future episode when we talk about more with the cool store. But what I did want to do is, so we could do the points now, or we could do, I created a small game.
Oh, did you?
I did. So we can do the game now, or we can do points now. And I'm going to leave it to Mr. Short or the audience to tell us what we should do next.
Well, I don't want to wait on the 2-minute delay or however long it's gotten to.
Okay.
So let's go with the points now.
Since,
it's 9:40. That's good.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. All right. So switching sharing.
Which I know this messes you all up, so sorry.
Oh my goodness, I have a serious challenge.
Google help Langdon.
I did leave the window open, so
good for you.
That bad.
Okay.
But yeah, here we go. So here is the current standings of the sweet internet points. With
Joe Fuzz is
Netherlands.
in the house right now, by the way.
I saw it, which is cool, and I saw he's coming up a little bit. And Netherlands Hackham with 4,100 points, and then Narendev with a nice stable 4,000 points. Narendev may have some points that he hasn't actually submitted yet.
No, he did the one I gave him.
Okay, well, he also filed an issue. One of them led directly to this show. So
okay, well, interesting.
So he should check his Discord channel and see if he's submitted them. But he might have submitted them already. I just don't know how many points. I don't know where he was, and yeah, etc. And then Noah Friction still solid there at 3,000 points. And then we kind of have we actually had a few different people at the 400 point level, and so I decided to feature somebody else. This is I think we decided this was Mikolo.
Mikolo.
And so 400 points there, pretty awesome. And Detective Conan is moving on up, so that's awesome. You can always go back and watch old episodes.
Yeah.
He gave me a hard time the other day because we didn't have a show last week.
I'm telling you, man, people feel weird when there's not a level up hour on Wednesday morning.
And
it's not just me.
Right.
It's not just me.
So we are going to have a show next week. But the week after that, we are also going to be dark because I need to operate on Asia Pacific time for the week.
And I don't blame you at all for that. So
doing a 9 a.m. show will be unpleasant for everyone.
Yeah, no, it would not.
So yeah.
Do justice.
So next week, I'm hoping to cover the health index of the container catalog, but my guest hasn't confirmed because he foolishly took a vacation, and I haven't heard it back from him. So
okay, well, fair enough.
Right. So if we don't do that, we will be doing something else. So watch the Twitters, and I will be posting it as soon as it is confirmed one way or the other. I was basically planning on giving him the rest of the day today. If I haven't heard back today, I'll make the call to push that out to later. But I think the health index is really interesting, and so I really want to cover it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
All right. So
your game.
Wait,
I want to see the
points.
Yeah.
New
points.
So
today's
new points. Let me grab the links here. So this is the show today. So if you haven't done this before, you can go and collect your own sweet internet points by either going to the level up point form and just entering the code, or the deep link there kind of basically just pre-populates the code for you. So it just makes it a little bit easier.
A little automation.
Not super hard to begin with, but there it is. So now,
I'm ready for this. Like, I intentionally buried the lead on this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Technology.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Do it. I promise. I know I can.
I'm watching the levels in Zoom, or not Zoom, OBS, and they're waiting for your awesomeness to appear.
I know the one thing. So I'm using a Kahoot, which in
That's
general
fine.
I'm a fan of. The thing that it has a little bit of a challenge with is that it really wants to play some really annoying music that I always try to make sure I turn off.
Thank you.
Sharing.
Thank you very much.
All right, so
Kahoot time, folks.
Go to kahoot.it.
Yeah.
And then enter this code. And Chris, if you want to play, you can play.
I was about to ask that. Like, do you want me to play or not?
Well, and the real question is, I think maybe we should give out some internet points for the winners here.
Absolutely.
So
I am not eligible, but absolutely.
Yes. So what that means is when you go to register, you can give a nickname. The only way I'm going to figure out the nicknames to the winners and to give those points is if you use the same nick that you use on your like on the
Points
public
submission?
profile name.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I can map them back. But otherwise there's like nothing about Kahoot captures who you are. So
right.
All right, so we need some more players.
Drop that link in chat real quick.
Oh, good call.
Yeah, and just make sure everybody knows that we're doing it.
Is this?
Remember, we're delayed a little bit, right? Like we're talking,
right.
And then the internet, latency and everything.
Yeah, I will put let me just put the pin in chat because I don't know if that link works.
Thank you. Oh, that link doesn't.
I don't
direct?
know because I don't know
Mm,
Kahoot well enough, but
okay,
well, at least Vader's in the house. So that's good to know.
that's awesome. Thank you,
We'll
Darth
get
Vader.
Luke. We can have a whole family affair.
Wow. Wait, no, they did that already in the third Star Wars thingy, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I'll hack him in the house. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Filling in.
So don't wait too long on this.
I know. I
Like,
know.
give it another.
That's
I'm gonna
why we
say
got to
like
figure out how to
30 seconds.
play around with this a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are unfamiliar with Kahoot, I will just explain it.
Admiral Akbar. That's what
Glad
I'm
to see
talking
it.
about.
Exactly. So just to explain it a little bit, so what's going to happen is I'm going to start it, and then it's going to show you a question, and then it's going to show you like some colors for answers, but the colors also have like an iconography in case you're colorblind, so you can pick which answers. Not all of the answers are single choice, so just keep that in mind. So pay attention to whether
Fair
it's
enough.
multi-choice or not.
Okay.
And let's get started.
So this happens in real time, and we need to make sure that there's enough delay, I guess. Right? You got this figured out, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is my first try.
So I got to watch all. Wow, I have to watch like 2 screens at once. This is fun.
I see it. They have like so yeah, we've got about a 7-second delay. It looks like.
Okay.
Pretend we're
Sounds
on
good.
a TiVo.
Yeah, basically.
And the nice thing about this is that it will jump to the next page as soon as the answers are in. So
who put ambo pillars in her leaves? What the
right?
heck?
Wasn't that a great one?
That was not me.
Yes, it was funny actually. My wife and I were talking about this morning, and we came up with much better answers, like joke answers, than the generator I found yesterday, which I think ambient potato interface was the best.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. But yeah. So Mr. Short with the
Oh,
fastest.
I'm sorry.
Because you're looking at
yeah.
delay.
So this is why I don't like playing sometimes, right? Like,
Right. So you got to look. Maybe you should look at the Twitch stream, not look at the share screen.
Yes. Let me do that. Okay.
All right. But then we definitely have some leaders. It's just the first question though, so I don't want to
hang on tight, folks. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put that window over here so I can actually watch the Twitch stream without like breaking stuff.
All right, I'm gonna hit the next button.
Yeah, do that.
All right, we don't have too many questions here. So, okay, the following are elements of API management. So I showed this to you earlier. Let's see how much you were paying attention. Okay. I will say I'm a little disappointed in myself in my quality of pictures. But they're okay. So usually I try for much more terrible photos. So the gateway itself, right, is like kind of how you keep track of what APIs there are. The publishing aspect is like how you make other people aware of them in a kind of a technical way. Monetization is the idea that you want to be able to pay for them somehow. So paying for them may be something like just making sure that this part of your organization is staffed well enough. Yes,
okay,
sir.
So people are saying that questions are timing out before they see them.
On
Twitch. So like this is why I said Mentimeter.
Right. I guess so. I don't know if I can make them
don't do it
slower.
Now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, is there settings for the actual quiz right now? Probably not. Now that you're in it, not building.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
4 boxes, no question. Times out when YouTube shows the question. Okay, yeah, like that's why like Kahoot is weird because it doesn't show you all the stuff on the screen; it only shows you part of it. Anyways,
well, we'll know for next time.
Yeah.
So I could end it and start over, but then we'll have some skewed results.
Some weird things. Right? Don't worry about it. Yeah.
So maybe what we'll say is we won't give out any points for this.
Right. This is for SMGs now.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Exactly. All right. And then, so we definitely had some change there.
Yeah.
And who knows how much has to do with the lag of the various platforms. But
well, let's put it like this. I timed out. That's why I said something.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one. Which one this picture represents an API gateway? True or false?
I'm gonna go with false. I don't know.
You're giving it away. You can't answer the question out loud.
Yeah. Oh shit. That's right.
You
So
would
true or false now? No Q.
so this was kind of funny. Is that in a sense both are correct, but technically this came from the SOA management interface from MuleSoft. So because that was kind of my point through a lot of the episode, is that API management, service management, SOA management, they're really all the same thing. However, because branding, because marketing, because
All right.
whatever, there's there's these subtle differences.
So I have some bad news from chat. People are like, "Fuck this, I quit."
What?
Yes.
Sad. All right. So what should we do?
I would just say punt this, and
Okay.
we'll try.
Let me show the
next
yeah,
time.
we could try it next time. Maybe we should open with a quiz at the next episode, like I do with my classes.
Yeah.
So we can call it a day if we're having technology troubles.
Kahoot isn't really designed for the long delay.
All right.
It's more like if we were all in the Zoom session, it would work.
Right. Which is how I've used it before and been successful.
So Mentimeter is this is why I mentioned Mentimeter, because I think it does handle this better.
Okay. All right. Well, we will do better, and I will move my questions. Maybe you will get better pictures.
You will get better pictures, I hope.
So yeah. And we don't know that Admiral Akbar was poised to win. I mean, the questions could be getting harder. Yeah.
Apologies for that, folks. We'll try again next time. Live and learn. We're all
like
about failing fast on this show, right?
Exactly. All right. So anything else I wanted to cover? Oh, do we have any other questions kind of from the chat or whatever? I think
well, once we got the points, it was all, no, this isn't working. Hang on, let's see. So somebody was asking for previous episodes and would we finally talk about the Kate's API and everything?
I have started my list of previous episodes and what we talked about in them, so that we can kind of like, I want to like be able to have them up so we can kind of say, go watch episode blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't quite finished, so hopefully by next time we'll see. So yeah. All right, cool. And Rushmead, we apologize that you're winning. But again, I will say, you never know. There could have been harder questions coming up. So maybe like I said, we'll open the show next time with a more correctly executed quiz.
So Carlos Santana mentioned, or no, Joe Fuzz mentioned, it's interesting. When I did Garage Cloud training at IBM, part of the introduction to Kubernetes was how it did and did not relate to SOA. I thought it was a good take on what's old is new again kind of thing.
Oh, that's
I thought that was an interesting observation, Joe. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I would find that very interesting.
Narindev asked an interesting question.
Okay.
If we're using service mesh, then theoretically we don't need to worry about API gateways since it's provided by the mesh itself?
So and I should have elaborated on this before. This is one of the things that I think, especially if you've been in the industry for a while, is incredibly confusing.
Yeah.
What we call service mesh today has very little to do with what we think of with API management.
Right.
They used to be the same thing. Or similar at least. So you will find references where a service mesh sounds more like an API gateway, but they're kind of sorry, I like the SOA in Dutch. You will find references where a service mesh is kind of sounding like an API gateway, but they're not the same thing. So a service mesh these days is kind of not the exposure of the services as much as it is the mesh that lets the services all kind of live together in the same environment. So that's where, the distinction is very, very fine. but they are different. And, it is kind of important to recognize the difference, because if you go and install a service mesh, so for example, like, Red Hat offers a product called OpenShift Service Mesh, and it offers a product called 3Scale.
Mm-hmm.
They are not the same thing. They
No.
do not do the same thing.
No.
But it is likely that if you have a significant number of services, particularly if you're exposing them to the outside world for consumption, you will need both, or you will want both.
Yeah. Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, almost. Actually, I would say if it's for reals, if it's production, if you have a not insignificant number of them,
Mm-hmm.
I think you want both, almost always.
Okay. That's fair.
That's my opinion.
Cool. No, that's good. And then Narendra had to leave, so I want to make sure we answered his question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JP Dade likes your shirt.
Yes. I'm going to let Tilmore answer if it's in the cool store or what's going on with the color of the shirts or whatever. I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I've given up on like the whole swag side.
Right.
I'm just focusing on you making sure good points get out the door. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So okay. So stay tuned on the availability of swag.
Yeah.
We are significantly close to that. We continue to make progress every day.
Do we? Every day, huh?
Every day. Yes. Wouldn't it be nice if there was like a swag service? I could see that as
swag as a service.
Yes.
In some ways, I feel like a lot of places do that. But
yeah, Cafe
you have
Press,
to actually put in what you want first.
Right. So yeah. Well, I am sorry that my little game was a bit of a bust, but we will try to do better next time. I hope we have covered this kind of topic area well enough.
Mm-hmm.
And we will move on to examples in future episodes using I think having some context grounding is good, and then we can have the cool store, and we can kind of not have to give the context when we're kind of talking about the individual services. So yeah, but I think then we should call it a show.
Yeah, I think we're good. Next up on the show today is the one and only OpenShift Administrator Office Hour with Andrew Sullivan and I. We'll be talking about container registries today. So bring your container registry questions, including like, what do I do in the wake of Docker Hub changes? Or JP Dade's instance, he asked yesterday, how do I get Quay working on RHEL 8? That there's an update to Quay coming this week. Yeah,
because I have that question as well.
Yeah, no. So there's an update. I actually had to do this during one of the shows yesterday. There's an update to Quay coming this week that will help with the RHEL 8 Quay question, or key, however you want to say it. Sorry if I said it wrong in your world. I'll say
the proper pronunciation is key, but the company and product is pronounced Quay.
Right. So like I have a lot of keys. I don't have a lot of Quays, right? Yeah. Cool. Oh, Conan Kudo says Quay on Fedora. You should be able to do that. There shouldn't be anything stopping you from Quay on Fedora.
Well, especially if we have the RHEL 8 update. So if it's working on RHEL 8, getting it working on Fedora should be trivial.
Yeah. But it's not a RHEL update. It's a key update, Quay update.
Okay.
So yeah, that'll be coming out this week. So it's Wednesday. We're almost there. Hopefully, right? Everything I say on the show about the future is disclaimered with it could change. Yes. Yeah, I can't predict the future. I can only tell you what I've been told, and the future may change. So yeah, awesome show today, Langdon. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining. Stay tuned, or don't stay tuned, to go do something else for an hour and then come back and watch the Administrator Office Hours with Andrew and I. And
you can always watch old episodes of
You can totally spend your time watching episodes of the Level Up Hour.
Or you can go and watch those OpenShift Commons briefings if you want to learn more about API management from people who do that for a living.
Right. Yes, I did drop a link to the Kong episode in chat, so check that out.
I actually put them both in there earlier.
You did?
Yes. Yeah. So you can find them. And thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe out there.